So if you're actually going to use data and AI intelligently, what you want to do is connect all your data across the commercial agenda so that you're looking at things like marketing, RGM, supply chain, R&D. Right. You want to connect all those decisions because everything's a variable that can be optimized. And the more you understand about how all those things relate, price, promotion, how you're distributing your product, the more you can make intelligent decisions. So when you really think about it, all of those silos just stand in the way and create friction between you and the future. Right. So that's why I think you're hearing that from a lot of those executives, is it starts to really challenge. It's almost like an existential question, like what should the org chart really look like? Because you really want to make, again, those fluid decisions between all of the different choices you have as an organization that can drive value creation.
Like, there are things that are going to stay the same, and the more we try to say everything is changing, like the hyperbolic, like you're wrong. Just by definition, you're wrong.
Because I think I've been wondering if there's going to be this divide between the programming era and the algorithm era, and the people will only prefer one or the other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Isn't the algorithm just programming? This is why the algorithm, in my opinion, should have never been protected by Section 230, right? Like the algorithm was programming. It was making a decision of what people were supposed to see. And I think the desire for people to see things in common, like we want shared experiences and shared stories. And there was I don't know where I read it, but there's just a story that so few people are seeing the same things that we can't talk about shows anymore.
Right. You
see the Suits phenomenon. You see, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Baby Reindeer.
Baby Reindeer over a weekend. It is possible to break through. It's just hard to predict those, that's why upfronts are more difficult, because you don't know what things are going to break through during the year. Right. And it makes it harder to capture those moments for brands.
I mean, I think specifically when we think about the video opportunities, we're thinking about how do we leverage video across the patient journey. And I think it can be used in many different places. So we would use YouTube for, True Action with at different points in the funnel than we would YouTube Select. And it also depends on what brand we're supporting. So if it's a broad-reaching brand, we do more premium stuff. If it's a more niche brand with a, focused patient population, we're going to do things that are more targeted. And then we would leverage programmatic for that. Right. So how we buy depends on really what the objective is. And it's not a universal approach anymore.
Right. I think that's the other part where the sort of screens everywhere situation is changing, and maybe we as marketers aren't necessarily as fluid, but if you watch with a child, for example, they're watching YouTube on a big screen in your living room and on their phone and everywhere else. So I do think as we progress, as their strategic frameworks to internally progress, that will collapse. It will be, sort of, we've alluded to the fact of shoppable content and things like that. I think these are the things that will continue. How can I, at the moment of whatever I'm seeing and I'm inspired by, continue to have either ad products or opportunities to click through, to get more information, to do the thing that thing is trying to get me to do.
And I think that the challenge that a lot of folks have is oftentimes TV and YouTube Shorts are funded from different buckets of money.
Right.
YouTube is very fragmented. So how do you sort of bring everything together in what could be a really, really powerful part of any plan?
I feel like we still have not tapped into the full potential. YouTube is part of a massive Google platform. Right? We have yet to see what it's capable of when it stitches together the consumer experience across display, across video, across search, all the data points, the other complementary data sets, clean rooms, right? The cloud, commerce. We've yet to stitch these things together and understand what a true audience experience and journey looks like.
And for brands, we've got to prepare for both a much more mature consumer at a younger age, but also one that has a much higher demand for authenticity.
Yeah.
So they will not tolerate the platitude. They won't tolerate we believe in this, and we don't invest in it from a brand.
Yeah.
And now is the time to really do some self-exploration of your brand, understand where your purpose lies, think about how you're connecting that to creators and their purpose, and how you're showing up authentically, because you can't build that overnight. And that's the challenge we saw with Gen Z, right? Is Gen Z seemed to catch everyone off guard. With Gen Alpha, we have an opportunity
We can see
to
it
be
coming
ready.
this time. Yeah.
Actually, the one that I'm most focused on and interested in is one that I'm hearing talked about only in small pockets, which is the organizational transformation in client organizations. So we're talking to a lot of large client organizations who are really grappling with, if we disrupt the linear nature of the way we make content, what does this mean for our business and how we work? We
like workflow structure, those kind.
We condense optimization. We open up the possibility of creative optimization. We take this linear process and we completely disrupt it. What roles do we need? How should we work? How do we partner?
That does not sound easy.
And I don't think it is easy, but I think it's truly the disruptive part of the transformation that you mentioned. And so I think that's going to be a really big and interesting conversation for the second half.
That's going to be fascinating to watch.
Right? You have YouTube specifically, like Shorts has evolved night and day, not only in terms of how the content has scaled and really been produced in the right way, but there's a lot of creators now that will just focus on YouTube Shorts in the same way that years ago people did with Vine, right? Like that's a name and a throwback, but how they leverage creators as entertainment channels, how they leverage them as media channels, and when they want to kind of dabble in and out of that space, it is a balancing act for a lot of brands.
Like from a consumer perspective, like you want to be able to have the option in all these different platforms if you want to go ahead and connect to commerce and make a purchase. And so I think that they've done a nice job updating a lot of those features and rolling that out, and we're seeing adoption where it makes sense.
I know what I'm getting excited about is that AI is moving, just like it should through the Gartner hype cycle. We're getting past that big inflated expectations part. People are now starting to think some thoughtful ways to use it. There's a saying that I say way too many times to my own agency, in regard to making sure you're not fearful of that, which is, AI is not going to replace media planners, but media planners who use AI are going to replace media planners that don't.